preparing to go live. Make sure my hair is on fleek. I've got to try to make like some photo faces so that hopefully I've got some I can use for my still. Anyway, good morning. Slightly late according to my computer. 1 minute later according to my watch, my Casio. You might notice my half-finished. Oh wait, which side? Half-finished mural I'm doing. Obviously it's Tintin. So I've ordered his hair color, and what else haven't I done? The bottle green. That's my dog. So I need to get bottle green. I need to get orange, and I've obviously run out of this color, so that should be coming by the end of the week. So hopefully I can finish that off. Right. So today we are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. Easy for me to say. Now, I'm not obviously a therapist or anyone that can advise you on any kind of mental well-being or getting cured on imposter syndrome. All I can do is just share my experience with it, and maybe share a few ideas that I've noticed. Hi, Brenda. Yeah, a few ideas I've noticed, how I've changed over the years. It's very, very succinct. I really wasn't prepared. I shall now take a sip of my hot chocolate. All right, so for anyone who knows me really well, I have had problems with self-esteem. So I've had really, really low self-esteem for a very long time. I've always felt too stupid, too ugly, too fat, too thin, not talented enough, not clever enough. And I think these are all the little stupid, niggling self-hate talk that contributes to imposter syndrome, I would guess. So I think for me, it's a lot of comparisonitis, particularly when I go to networking events. I turn up as is. I mean, I do make an effort. Oh, hold up, like that. There you go. Now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to face the world. But what I've noticed, and I think Steve Jobs has probably played a large part in liking myself more, is that if somebody who owns or owned and ran the largest, most important company in the world can come to work in jeans and a black polo neck every single day, and people still respect what he says, then who am I to think I need to wear a suit, be all suited and booted like I'm in the 80s? I think the world has happily moved on since then, and it's about the work rather than the outfit or the exterior. Now, don't get me wrong, there's first impressions and those last, but I'm lucky enough that I'm in an industry where I'm almost expected to be a little bit like quirky and kooky, because it's my job to come up with innovative, I can't talk today, innovative ideas on how to get you seen and heard in the right way. So obviously that's the branding side of things. Now, the reason why I'm talking about imposter syndrome on a branding group is that I've noticed the education process of branding your business, going through finding out the personality traits that you want to highlight, others that you want to start growing out of. It's all a process about figuring out who you are, how you want to talk as a brand, how you want to be perceived, and during that process, gaining that kind of self-awareness and knowledge about who you are as a brand and who you are as a person, which is obviously your brand is an extension of you. That's when you get to realize, like, actually, look at all these skills that I've got. Now, an exercise my husband and I used to do quite often in the early days is when we were feeling like we were quite unhappy in our jobs. So we were in retail for quite a long time. Jason, my husband's obviously still there, and I value the insight and the experience of being in retail because it really, really helped. But what we used to do is when we felt unhappy, because retail can sometimes be quite a hard slog, when we felt unhappy and other people were getting promoted and we weren't, we would sit down and just update our CV, kind of in preparation for if this doesn't improve, then at least my CV is ready. But also, it was such a good exercise just to recognize the skills that we have and understand that we've come a long way since the last time we did our CV, for example. And that's kind of what branding does for you as well. It makes you take stock of where you're at, where you want to go. And by getting to know yourself a little bit better, you start recognizing things that you like about yourself. So I've got an exercise for you to do, and this is going to help towards kind of chipping away that imposter syndrome. So I want you to take a note. You don't have to share it with me. I would love it if you did, because I just like seeing people's stuff. Write down your top 10 attributes. It might be quite hard, but I've actually been able to come up quite quickly with 9. So I've only got one more to squeeze out. And for someone with low self-esteem, if I can do it, well, obviously you guys who I look up to and admire are going to be able to do it too. So you basically list down, so put down a heading, my top 10 attributes. And it's what are the things that you like about yourself? So I'll give you some of my examples. I recognized lately that I'm a fighter, especially when it's for someone else. I'm much more confident fighting someone else's corner than I am my own. But pushed to a limit, I definitely have that strength to turn around and just say enough is enough. And I think that that's a really valuable trait that I have, and I really, really like that about myself. I try and do it with kindness where I can, unless it's been pushed to an unreasonable level, then I will just let rip. But nowhere near as horrible as I was in school. I don't think I was a very happy child. So I really, really like that about myself, because what it really helps me with my business, and because every branding job is, I feel like I'm fighting for that person at a certain level, because I'm like, no, you're going to be a success. You've got to bet on yourself. You've got to make sure that you succeed, because why wouldn't you? I mean, you're not going to give up on yourself, and I'm not going to give up on you, and I will give you tips and tricks. So and other things. I mean, the other day I'm really proud of myself, mainly because Jason was so proud of me. My husband Jason was so proud of me. But the other day a lady was driving through a bollarded area, but it was the time of night where the guy was taking the bollards down. So he took the first set down and she drove up, and he was in the middle of taking the last sets down, but it was like a double bollard, so he'd taken one down, and then I think he went off somewhere to chat or something. She was obviously in a hurry, so she was trying to, instead of kicking up a fuss, she was trying to just sneak like around the bit of road where the bollard wasn't. And he'd basically lost his mind. and he was like, well, what are you doing, you idiot? And this is a perfect example, because I said to him, I don't think that's called for. She's a lady. You don't need to call people names just because she's trying to get down the road. And I was really proud of myself, because I mean, I didn't think too much about it. I just went like, because I didn't think that it was right for somebody in a powerful position to just be pooping down someone's neck just because they wanted to get somewhere. He doesn't know her story. He doesn't know if she's going to a hospital appointment. So, just anywho, I was very bad. One second. I also have the ability, I'm not going to go through the whole list, don't worry. I also have the ability to get people, choking on my hot chocolate, to get people to confide in me, which I absolutely love, because I guess it's that thing of being brave or being stupid enough to ask the difficult questions, because I don't mind if someone says, well, actually I don't want to talk about that. But a lot of time people just want the opportunity to just offload, and I love being able to find stuff about people that maybe they wouldn't tell anyone else. I like being confided in, and I like people trusting me enough to tell me that stuff. Okay, so your homework is you need to put down a list of top 10 attributes. They don't even have to link with your brand or your business, just recognizing the bits about yourself that are really good. If you're finding it hard to do, try looking at yourself from somebody else's eyes. If you feel like you don't have anyone in your life that looks on you in a loving way, just imagine you are that person that you haven't found yet. Maybe you've got someone who's really supportive, who thinks everything you do is amazing, wants you to succeed and wants you to be the best version of yourself, and list down what are your top 10 attributes. And it's really helpful. It's also really helpful for when you're doing a brand personality exercise, bringing it back to brand. Right, a few other things that I have discovered. Now this sounds judgmental and it's not meant to be, but imposter syndrome, you might not feel like it, but it's a choice, and it's you're choosing to feel that way, and you really don't need to. And another thing is that uh, it's temporary. It's you are always going through growth and flux and change, and the way that you're feeling today, you won't be feeling this way, this exact way in say 3 years time, maybe even a week's time. So just recognize it as something that's temporary. Just think, okay, a lot of people feel this way. I've got to show up as my best self. So I'm not going to feel this way in a year, in 2 years, when I've gained more experience and I've gained more confidence. So just put it to one side and just push on through. Feeling as though you shouldn't be there is a temporary feeling that you grow out of. Trust me, because I've done it. So let me go through a few things on, so it's our responsibility to resolve this feeling of feeling like we're an imposter. Nobody else is really putting this on us apart from ourselves. So if you have any examples, feel free to stick in the comments. If you feel like this more often than not, stick anything down in the comments. Just a higher, like Brenda sent me, or anything, just so that I know that you're there and that this is helping in some way, shape, or form. So I think for me, the most that this shows up, so the most where I'm feeling an imposter syndrome, where I'm feeling like, oh, I'm going to get found out for not being as good as I hope I am, but I'm not sure if I am. And I mean, and obviously being a small business, working on your own, you don't have a lot of feedback to help you. You kind of have to do this all for yourself. What I've noticed with branding, I know I'm back there again, is it's an exercise on gaining knowledge about your brand, about what it is that you're actually trying to sell. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't really have an elevator pitch. So I used to go to networking meetings and be like, oh, I don't know what to say. Like, I really want to do this kind of work, but the people that have come here are probably expecting me to do this kind of work. So I should probably say that, even though I don't want to do that so much. I want to do this. So I'd stand up and be like, business cards. I just have nothing to say. Whereas now I'm like, and it takes time to figure out who you are and what you want to be. And now I say that, I specialize in branding. I don't design logos. I design a brand identity. So it forms part of a bigger picture where you gain more knowledge of who you are as a brand. And this exercise of helping people nail down their branding helps them to identify who they are, who they're selling to, what kind of a service they want to provide. And that's not just the operations, but just your emotional connection behind that, like your personality behind how you speak to your customers, how you email them, how you text them, whatever it is. And these things help you by giving you confidence, by defining who you are as a person, as an extension of your brand, or the other way around, brand an extension of you. And that knowledge that you gain, you're like, oh, okay, so I only really have to speak about these few things because they match my goals and they match how my brand is represented. So it makes it so much easier. And an imposter syndrome for me, like I was saying, is a lot of comparisonitis. So going to Facebook to see your old school friends is a dangerous thing. So Brenda's on here and we went to college together, or although now it's called the university, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that, Brenda, but it's changed from a college to a university. So I think I'm a university person who left their graduate. um, and she, if I were to just have a look at her Facebook Live, and oh my word, she's still as beautiful as she ever was. She does these amazing artworks, like really dramatic stuff. She's obviously living like the dream. She's like a famous artist. You know, everything is subjective. So I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, oh, you know, she's got it right. She's obviously nailed life. But if I was to live a week in her shoes, I'd probably find that actually there's a few aspirations that she hasn't achieved yet, you know, and she might be looking at me and thinking, oh wow, look, this amazing mural painter. I don't know what example to give that doesn't make me sound like an ass. So when you compare to someone, you're comparing yourself, especially on Facebook, you're comparing yourself to their best diary entry that they can possibly give. They're not going to put down every complaint that they have during the day, because no one wants to read some miserable garbage where someone wakes up and go, oh my word, I can't believe I have to face this day, it is a blah blah. So you're looking at stuff and comparing yourself to things that aren't genuine and aren't real. So when you go to these networking meetings and you see these people that you think are just super professional, they're wearing the pencil skirt and the collared shirt and like a proper suit. They're dressed up, their makeup is gorgeous. And then like I look and I think, oh, why can't I be that slick? Why can't I be this like 80s professional where you wear the power suit? But it doesn't connect with my brand. You know, I don't want to be this intimidating, super professional, almost stuffy person. And to be honest, I'm intimidated by those type of people, and I'm really nervous and shy to speak to them. And that's not how I want people to interact with me. So take a minute to have a look at yourself and think, okay, if I were to turn up to a networking meeting and represent myself in a way that I think looks professional and in a way that I think maybe a solicitor would dress, is that going to jive with my brand? Like, is that going to attract people to me? Because then when they see me on a day I'm not in networking and I'm, you know, wearing my Mickey Mouse sweater, are they going to be shocked and confused because it doesn't line up? So consider what you're actually feeling like an imposter about, and recognize that these are emotional, fleeting moments. So let's move on. Now, when you compare yourself to others, it's a great idea to have a look and think, what actually impresses me or intimidates me about this other person? You know, why am I looking at them and thinking that they've got it nailed? If it's just an exterior, so if it's just the way they dress, and if they stand up and they seem super confident, number one, clothes are easy to emulate. If you really want to dress that way, it's a choice. You can by all means dress in a way where you seem like you're maybe a Virgin Airlines air hostess and everything is immaculate. It's a job and a half to keep it up, I would imagine. I mean, I've sort of tried, but I'm just not good at it. So I feel more comfortable dressing like a 14-year-old boy. Although today I am feeling the pink. If there's something that intimidates you as well, I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. But if you're looking at things like, oh my word, they're so amazing because they just stand up. Sorry, I don't know why. I keep having more hot chocolate, but it just makes me choke more. So good. Yeah, so if a person is standing up and they're delivering a really confident talk, you haven't seen the 40 talks they did before they did that one. And I am not, if you told me, I don't know, maybe as long as 4 years ago, or as short as 4 years ago, that I would be doing a Facebook Live every single week, that I, excuse me, that I would be planning to hold a workshop or like an online webinar, and then I would just be talking for, well, so far it's been 20 minutes, it might go on for 5 days. That I would have told you where to go and stick a kite, because there is no way 4 years ago me would be committed to delivering a live video every single week. It would just scare the poop out of me. Like literally, I can tell you, hand on the Bible, there was no way that I would have stood up in front of a room full of people and talked about branding. First of all, I didn't realize at the time that the way graphic designers approach branding can actually be different. There's no one set rule. The way that I approach it is from an emotional point of view, because I also, ooh, sorry, earthquake, I'm trying to get comfortable. I also want to leave a mark in this world in a positive way. I want to make an impact, and I want to do it one small act at a time. I want to help other people, to mainly other women, to feel their strength and to live in it, and to understand and recognize that the fact that they're choosing to run their own business is the bravest thing in the world. It is such a leap of faith, and a self-belief that you don't realize that you have, but you've taken the first step by having your own business, and it's incredible. And I want to help people to recognize that, but not all branding specialists, I don't know if I can call myself that, it still feels too pretentious, but not a lot of graphic designers and branding consultants, whatever I am, take that point of view. They can sometimes take it from the point of view of, we're going into this industry. It might be more of a clinical approach, not so much the human to human side that I like to take. And I've realized there's nothing wrong with me taking a different view of how I deliver my service. If anything, it makes me stand out, because I'm not the typical designer. I'm just going to take 2 seconds to read the comment that looks amazing. I'm going to have to come back to that, Debbie, because that is like an essay, and I love it. So there's nothing wrong with you delivering a service in the way that you do. Another thing that I've learned over the last few years is your experience is valuable. I try and think of like the most stupid example. So basically, let's say I'd wanted to be a solicitor all of my life. And now that I've gone through the college, I don't even know what they do, university, whatever. I did all the training, all the school training that I don't know what lawyers do. So this example is already falling flat. Let's say I did everything right up to the point where I was like, okay, now I must get a job as a solicitor. But then I decided, actually, no, F this SH, I'm going to be a graphic designer now. Now, a lot of people, like, especially when I was growing up, they'd be like, well, you failed at life because you were on this trajectory and then you decided to just like, and then start from scratch. But you're not starting from scratch. That experience is never wasted. If I was a graphic designer with an education in law, that just means that that side of my business is going to be really strong, and I'm going to have an outlook on being a graphic designer that's so different from anyone else. And it's the same for your business. You might have started your own, I'm trying to think of an example, maybe quilting business, I don't know, like a creative business, but you've been in corporate all of your life. Does that mean that you can't do quilting? No, of course it doesn't. And you might feel like an imposter because your experience and your knowledge base is on in the corporate world, and now you're changing trajectory. But that just means that you're going to be looking at things from a completely different point of view. You're going to have, excuse me, knowledge, a knowledge base that's so different, but also really, really strong. So imposter syndrome, I believe, is just, it's it's about insecurity, it's about a lack of confidence, and maybe about knowing yourself. And I think a good start is to do that homework I gave you. So put your top 10 attributes, the top 10 things that you really like about yourself. List those down. And then if you really want to stop comparing yourself to others, start by recognizing, so for example, for me, sorry, I've got an itchy nose, I'm a mess today. So for me, Um, I knew I wanted to be a designer from quite a young age, which is lucky for me. So when I dropped out of school, I finished my school at at a graphic designer based high school equivalency college. So I did that for 2 years, and then I went into now a university for a further 3 years. So you could say that actually I've got 5 years of graphic design education behind my belt. I think I can count on one hand how many times during those 5 years we touched a computer. So that doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. Of course, they don't teach you how to create a job bag or how to talk to a client. So it was basically 5 years of making friends and practicing different kinds of creative tasks. So my education on paper looks incredible. Wow, 5 years, she could be a doctor. But in reality, it's like, yeah, okay, I did the college, but nothing real world ready, nothing like real world proofed me for starting a career. Then after that, we moved to England, and then I was in retail for pretty much 10 years. So all of that education is like, who gives a crap? It was completely wasted because then I got stuck in the retail trap of you work hard enough, you work smart enough, you can get promoted. So I was stuck there until I made an actual decision that no, why am I going to waste all of my years of something I'm desperate to do? And so I started pursuing graphic design. And again, if I look at my history and I think how for the first year I worked on my days off when I was what was I, assistant manager at Crabtree and Evelyn. So on every day off, I worked for free at a nearby design studio so that I could gain that experience, get my foot in the door, have something of a portfolio, and then it was just slog after slog. So I've got companies that I work with in my portfolio, in my history, like NetWest, through working with Lathwaites. I've worked with guide dogs. I even worked for 6 weeks as an art worker for Lego. So I've got these impressive names in my portfolio. But again, if I look at it from a practical point of view, that was all just practice. That was all teaching me and preparing me for where I am now. And if you do something every day long enough, you're bound to get good at it, right? Like, unless you're completely lazy and stupid, there is no way that time isn't going to improve your craft. You take feedback on board, you experience perhaps bad clients or complaints, and this stuff teaches you lessons that you either learn to deal with or you don't handle very well until you decide to deal with it. And so, how can you be an imposter? How can you be an imposter if you've had life experiences? I mean, I've been alive for 44, 45, I don't know how old I am, 44 years. I've got to have learned something in that time. So, if by imposter syndrome you sit and you recognize, well, actually, I'm just comparing myself to somebody else's life that I don't really know about, then that's an emotional thing. Almost like, I'm sorry for any men watching this, but almost like us women when we have our hormones every month, we understand now that those are not real emotions. They're a surge of chemicals that affect us in an emotional way. And we know that after about 3 days, we're going to be okay. So we can put things aside and segment things and understand, like, this is temporary. I'll feel better in a day or two. It's again with the imposter syndrome. Put it to one side and recognize, you know what? No one in this whole world is this person because only I am, right? And however you deliver that service, you're going to get things wrong. There's impossible to know everything straight away. Experience is a valuable thing. You can learn from a book, but actually doing it will teach you valuable things because you're learning and changing and reacting and growing with your customer base. I think about the scariest thing. So let's say you've offered a networking group to give a talk, okay, and you're thinking, well, what if somebody asks me a question I don't know? Like, well, what if someone asks you a question you don't know? uh, Somebody asked me the other day, so I was speaking to them about doing a website, and they said, okay, I've got DOS. And I'm like, well, what the fluff is DOS? So basically MS DOS, Like, I still really have no idea what it is because I think I bypassed that whole era. It's so old. So I was like, I don't know what that is. First of all, it's like, okay, I'm not a web developer, but because I do websites from a designer point of view, I know what to search for to find the answers. So let's say, let me give an example. So let's say, okay, Debbie is a life and business coach. So she teaches you how to, well, she teaches you all of this stuff that I'm fumbling about in. She would teach you how to get out of imposter syndrome really well. But what if you went to her and you said, okay, I feel like this. What can I do? And then her reaction is, oh, I've never had a client like that to ask me that. I've never really had the requirement to look this certain challenge up to solve. So what do I do? But she's going to be closer to finding the answer than you are, right? Because she's in this industry. So just like for me, I'm like, okay, so if this person has a DOS operating system, obviously whatever the D stands for, operating system, what do I need out of that that would be useful for me? So I knew, because I've worked in this field, I knew that I had to search how to convert MS-DOS to a PDF, or how to use MS-DOS on a more modern website. So basically, I know the Google terms, I know the Google questions to ask. So let's say you're on the spot. Somebody asks you a question. So somebody says to me, okay, I'm trying to think of something I haven't done. I really need to make an exhibition stand. I need the whole thing, so a top banner, side panels. I need the little table. Then I've never really done a full exhibition stand before, but I know that I need to look up printers who produce that. So I said, okay, great, leave it with me. I need to look into a few things, get you some accurate prices, and come back to you. And that's just how you deal with it, because you will know how to find the information out. If somebody asks you something you don't know, there's no shame in that, because then you're like, great, I've got an opportunity now to learn something. If this is an answer a lot more people want, let me share that. And then you say to them, you know what, I've never had to actually deal with that challenge before, and that is such a good question. Would you mind if I take your email address? I'm going to look up the answer and I'll share it with the group at a later time when I have something more definitive, because I don't want to just make stuff up. Like, what is wrong with that? And if anything, that person has now got permission to data capture you, which is like a win-win. So anywho, let me wrap up, because it's been just over 30 minutes and my nose is bugging me. So a few things that I've noted down when I was planning for this. Hey Anna, thank you so much, by the way, for everyone who's commented. I've got Brenda, Claire, Debbie, Anna, and these are a group of women that I really greatly admire. So I'm really glad that you've taken the time to put a comment on. I'm super chuffed. So a few more notes that I had to talk. One recommendation. I do quite a lot of courses online, so I've signed up to something called Creative Live. I think it's a .com, and on there there's a woman called Debbie Millman. Now I think what she does is she was like a big wig in AIGA, so AIGA, which is basically like an association for graphic designers and illustrators, I believe. It's like an American thing. It's like a membership that you're part of, and they'll come up with good ways of working and stuff. I don't know. I just watched her video, but she's got this amazing video on there, which is called A Brand Called You, and I got a lot of the stuff just from watching her course lately. It's not free, but I think it's reduced in price at the moment. I don't know, have a look. But she says a lot of really good things. She's basically giving you advice on how to go and get a job, but the advice is you can turn that advice to a lot of situations, and it's really awesome. So anyway, that's my recommendation. And some of the stuff that I learned from that is also that you are more than just your job, or your business. You know, you are an actual human being that you've come to this point, and you've got experience. You are your personality, you are your willingness to learn, and your curiosity. So don't underestimate curiosity, because that shows an interest and a passion in doing things the best way you possibly can, or even finding sideways answers to a straightforward question. So just remember that when you're feeling imposter syndrome, you are more than just one thing. You are a plethora, thank you, yes, big word, of a whole bunch of different things, of life experience, work experience, choices on how you want to be as a person. You might forget that, I mean, I can remember, because I was a very unhappy child, but being happy and being positive is a choice that I've made throughout the years, because I grew up quite unhappy and, sad and whatever. Um, so you can choose to not feel this way. It just takes a bit of practice, and it just takes reminding. It's like hate talk. When you find yourself telling yourself things that are not helping you in any way, you just say, hey, I don't know where this voice is coming from, but that isn't true. And feel free to argue with yourself. It's normal. Right, let me see. So I've put down notes on what impresses and intimidates you about others that look like they've nailed it. That looks like they're exactly where you want to be, but they might not be. They could be leasing their car or renting their house. So they're driving an amazing car, or they live in this amazing house. It all could be temporary kind of, fascia things. It's not, you don't know the full story. They're more likely not where they want to be. Everyone gets to a point, and then they set goals for the next step, and they might not be happy in where they are, because they're working towards their next set of goals, and they got there over time. So just keep remembering that this feeling is temporary, because you will get to where you want to go. That's the whole idea about goal setting, is that where the goal is, where the destination is, so that you can plan your journey. So just keep reminding that. Something that Debbie Millman said, when you turn up for an interview, and this applies to like networking, show up, don't show off. Just the fact that you're there at all is, just celebrate that, because a lot of people find it hard just to get out of bed in the mornings, and the fact that you've done that is already a win. So just by pitching up, just celebrate the fact that you're there at all. You don't know what's going to happen. You might meet someone who knows someone who might fix you up with a client for the rest of your life, that you never have to worry about working again. Well, working it, I don't know. Right, insecurity. So that plays a big part in imposter syndrome. What are you insecure about? And this is what I said earlier. People change, which means that the things you're insecure about today are fleeting and temporary. You won't be feeling this way later on down the line. Gain a belief in your product and service, and the part that you play in delivering that service. So gain knowledge about your brand, about the service or the product that you have, and start to believe in it, and bank on yourself. Gamble on yourself winning, because all that means is that you're making a commitment not to give up. You're obviously going to succeed if that's your point of view. Define and understand your value and the benefit you provide to your customers. So that's a really good one, because how can you feel like an imposter when you know exactly where you stand in this relationship? And I wrote down a note about pretense. So I've got a real problem with pretension. We know when people are lying to us. This is another thing that Debbie Millman said. We even if we don't fully know that someone's lying to us, we have this like intuition and this uncomfort about people lying to us, and we don't like to be lied to. So don't try and pretend to be someone you're not in such a way that you're basically lying to yourself and to them. Just be who you are, because you're the only one who's going to be able to do that. It makes people feel uncomfortable when you're trying to be something that you're not, and it makes them feel like they're being lied to, and no one wants that. Don't underestimate trust as a powerful emotion in your business, and that's important. So that's down to, I'm always going to show up like this. Like, this is my smart clothes day. So, I'm never going to be able to work for Virgin Airlines, because it's not in my DNA. It's not who I am, and that's okay, because I know that when I feel comfortable, I do my best work. So why wouldn't I do that? So I'm going to end it there, because I think this might be one of my longest videos. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for feeding into your comments. I assume that you already are a member of East Anglia Small Business Branding because you're on here. But feel free to share the group. And I guess I will see you next week for another live. If you have anything that you want me to talk about, any suggestions, that's the word, then feel free to drop me a line. Otherwise, I'm going to start planning for next week, but I have a lot of work on today, which means I really shouldn't be going on for this long. So I hope you all have an amazing Wednesday, and remember, you are as incredible as you don't think you are. And take care. I should have like a sign off, like mystery bunny you later, mystery hair. All right, goodbye.